Grandmaster Nightfalls are live for Season 17, Season of the Haunted, and it is definitely one of the easiest seasons of Grandmasters that we've gotten since the launch of Grandmasters, which means farming for weapons is going to be pretty easy on at least 4 of the 6 weeks of GMs, with Corrupted and Proving Grounds being a little harder than the others, which means you probably want to know what the best rolls are going to be for these guns that you can much more easily farm. So let's start with the first Nightfall weapon that is available, Silicon Neuroma, then we'll do primary weapons, then special, then power. Silicon Neuroma is not something I'm really going to recommend for PvE purposes. Snipers have been a mid-tier option at best for a very long time, and Arbalest has all but replaced snipers in champion-based content. If you're looking for a PvE role, it should be Triple Tap and Firing Line, or Frenzy, or Focused Fury. I'm leaning towards Firing Line most of all, with some sort of magazine perk as well. But the main appeal is on the PvP end. Unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you want to look at it, there's only one obvious role for PvP, and that is Snapshot and Opening Shot, much like a lot of other snipers in the game. Arrowhead and Corkscrew both work pretty well as far as barrels go, with either ricochet or high cal rounds for PvP. Duty Bound, the 600 RPM auto rifle, we got a few options here. I'm going to shut down the whole triple tap plus 4th times situation pretty quickly here. I think it's a neat novelty like on the Trial Scout, but it's not something I'm really going to recommend personally. At the very least, it's not something that I would ever use. I lean much more towards stats and one for all. I love me some stats one for all. It's so easy to proc for such a massive benefit in all PvE content. Rampage and Frenzy are also completely acceptable options, but I would lean towards one for all the harder the content becomes, as one for all does not rely on kills to actually work. It's the same with Frenzy. I don't really like triple tap on autos or really any full auto weapons. If you do, then like cool, but I just don't. I'm going stats for all first and then perpetual motion second. I might even take Zen Moment over triple tap as well. PvP wise, perpetual motion is probably going to be the choice for most people here, or maybe Zen Moment, maybe even Steady Hands for more specific gamers, people who really like handling. With Rampage, I suppose in the second column, Dynamic Sway Reduction also works. Vorpal is fine too for people who want Vorpal for those situations. Minor perks, it is range time, and that is going to be a very common theme for today's video. Accurized, Arrowhead for the recoil bonus, Corkscrew, Hammer Forged. You know the drill. If it's got range on it, it's probably good. Small bore too. D.F.A, the hand cannon, is next on the list, 140 RPM hand cannon, and shocker, this isn't really going to deviate from most hand cannons out there. In fact, old reliable Outlaw Rampage is going to be one of the top PvE roles in my opinion, with Accurized for range, along with any range-giving barrel that you prefer. Some people will also opt for Timed Payload though, to get a slight PvE damage boost similar to Explosive Payload for higher end content. That totally works as well. When it comes to PvP, Timed Payload is still a decent choice. I could see people opting for Fragile Focus for the range boost, combined with Opening Shot or Timed Payload. And again, range is always a good choice on a hand cannon. Minor perks and masterwork, pretty standard affair here. You could also go Outlaw for PvP. Nothing wrong with Outlaw in PvP. Horror's Least, that's going to be from the Corrupted, I assume. 540 RPM Rapid Frame Pulse. Nothing too crazy here perk-wise. I'm pretty split between Heating Up and Zen Moment. I think I personally would go Heating Up more than Zen. That's just kind of my personal preference. Perpetual Motion is more of a PvP selection in my eyes, but it's not like you couldn't use it in PvE. Second column has a bit less going on, Kill Clip or Frenzy, leaning heavily towards Kill Clip in PvP and low and mid-tier PvE content, with Frenzy getting a bit more reliable in endgame PvE stuff. Of course, Vorpal is an option for PvP. I just don't really like Vorpal in PvE. I think I probably undervalue Steady Hands in PvP, but that's definitely an option as well depending on what kind of player you are. I'm just not that kind of player. I also don't think very highly of high impact reserves, so I don't really like that too much. And yet again, range for your minor perks, Corkscrew, Arrowhead, Chambered works as well. Moving to Plug 1, the Fusion Rifle, we got a couple of good options here. The top PvE option is likely going to be Feeding Frenzy and Reservoir Burst in order to quickly reload your weapon for another burst shot after a kill. I suppose you could also go Heating Up instead of Feeding Frenzy, as the recoil bonus is pretty good, depending on how you usually end up using your fusion rifle. I actually really like Successful Warm-Up as a perk as well, to crank out faster damage, but again, this completely depends on how you want to use a fusion rifle, what activity you're in, a whole bunch of different factors. You could also even go for Kickstart if that's more your thing. When it comes to PvP, we want perks that are going to work without needing a kill, as special ammo is much tougher to come by, and the amount of times you're really going to be chaining fusion rifle kills in PvP, probably going to be pretty low. Under Pressure is the very obvious choice in the first column, thanks to it working instantly on PvP respawn. In the second column, Kickstart does not require a kill to proc, but it does need a pretty specific condition, which not everyone will be comfortable doing all of the time. Cornered doesn't require as much finesse as Kickstart, but it still has a pretty specific condition to hit for it to work. Minor perks, wouldn't you know it, range again. Battery-wise, we're going Particle or Projection for PvP, the P's for PvP, with most people opting for Liquid Coils for a bit more damage per shot in PvE, although I personally don't think it matters that much in the grand scheme of the game which perk you go for here when it comes to literally anything. Finally, Hothead is back, another chance at Hothead. Arc Rocket Launcher, usually going to pair this with a G-Horn in your team whenever it's Arc Burn or something like that. I don't care how much you want to stack damage perks and velocity and whatever the hell else on your rockets. A rocket means nothing if you don't actually hit the target. Dead DPS is no DPS, which is why I will always sway towards tracking in most cases. Unless you're supremely confident in hitting every rocket that you launch, you should probably be going for tracking. Are there some plays with Demolitionist, with some sort of grenade build like Starfire Protocol Warlock? Yes, of course. Are there plays to make with auto-loading holster? Of course. Could you go field prep for the reload and the extra storage? Sure. These are special cases though, and for most people, I think you're probably just going to want tracking. The second perk, I think, completely depends on your individual needs. Explosive Light is going to be for people who value or need each rocket on an individual basis to deal as much damage as possible, high total damage. Maybe this is group content where you're in a 3-person team, you don't need to instantly burn down a boss, but you have enough damage for champions where you don't need to fire back-to-back rockets, stuff like that. Clown Cartridge is better if you just need to dump as much damage into a target as fast as humanly possible. Maybe you're trying to do a solo Legend Lost Sector, or you're doing a raid, something like that. I don't really value Vorpal Weapon that much, it's only 10% now. Lasting Impression is also around, but a lot of people tend to waste the damage on this on champions because their timing isn't good and they miss the stun window, but it's not the worst choice that you can make. Impact Casing is going to give you that slightest of slight damage increases. Otherwise, we want this rocket to go as fast as possible, so check for velocity-based perks. In terms of what weapons I think you should actually try to hunt down, it's a good idea to have a good Hothead rocket for sure. G-Horn's always going to be in style unless it gets a massive, I'm talking colossal nerf. So being able to bring an Arc G-Horn for strikes with Arc Burn, it's pretty good. I'm not crazy about any of the other weapons though, personally. They're all fine. They're fine. D.F.A, it's a 140 RPM hand cannon. We got plenty of those. It's fine. Horror's Least, it's kind of a unique gun. It's fine. They're definitely not bad weapons, but they are certainly weapons that I think a lot of people can live without if you aren't able to farm them. If GM Nightfall farming isn't the most accessible thing to you, I don't really think you need to worry too much. Best of luck in the hunt for these guns if you're looking for them. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.